Hey everyone, welcome to economics. We're going to get started with chapter 1, which is just kind of a general overview of what economics is. So, first off, the learning targets for today's lesson, section 1.1, we're going to talk about scarcity and choice and how those things are the basis of economics. We'll talk briefly about entrepreneurs and what they do, what their role in an economic system is. We'll look at the factors of production, which will be brought up time and time again as we go through the rest of the lessons here. And then we'll talk about how scarcity affects the factors of production. Now, there are going to be terms like scarcity that I use throughout this lesson that maybe you aren't familiar with. These are all vocab terms, and so you can use some of the resources that I've made available to you to take a look at that vocab and kind of gather an understanding of what that term means. But we'll talk a little bit about it as we go through the lecture here too. So these are all of your vocab words. Like I said, they are available to you elsewhere as well, but I'll just put them on the screen here quick and highlight a couple of the really key important ones for this lesson. So we're going to talk about needs and wants, both of those things probably pretty self-explanatory, but they really are a basis for the choices that we make in our economic system. Scarcity, which I've said a few times already, is this principle that we have a limited amount of available goods and services, but we as humans have unlimited wants, right? Like if I could buy everything in a store, maybe I would, right? Because my wants as a human are unlimited, but not all of those things are available to me, right? We can't all buy everything that we want and need. So that's the principle of scarcity. We'll talk about the difference between scarcity and shortages. So a shortage is going to be short term, right? That's a situation where consumers have high demand for a good or a service, and producers don't have that available at the moment. For example, right now, there's like a shortage of disinfectant wipes, right? Or face masks, things like that. And then we'll talk about the factors of production. So those are the different resources that we use to make goods and services, the finished product that we actually buy in the store. And then these are some examples of factors of production. So take a look over these: land, labor, capital. There are two different types of capital as well, so we can kind of break those into physical capital and human capital. Okay, so you have a note guide that's available to you. I will go through that as we go through this lecture, and you can fill that out alongside with me. So the first overarching question for this section is how scarcity forces us to make economic choices. We have to decide which options are most important to us, right? Like we don't have unlimited money. So we need to decide what sort of things are important to us and what we really need to spend our money or our resources on, right? So obviously you're gonna buy food, right? That's a need. You need that to survive, so that's going to be a priority for you, right? The principle of scarcity, like I've already mentioned, states that there are limited goods and services for unlimited wants, which means that we have to make choices as consumers. Now, people satisfy their needs and wants with goods and services. As I mentioned, people's needs and wants are unlimited, but goods and services are limited. So every society then is faced with three key economic questions. What are we going to produce? How are we going to produce it? And then who are we going to sell that to? Who's going to receive that good or service? Economics begins with the idea that people cannot have everything that they need and want. There are a limited amount of goods and services that are available to meet unlimited wants, which is scarcity. As we've mentioned, scarcity forces people to make choices, but it's not the same as a shortage. A shortage is temporary, while scarcity always exists. Now, entrepreneurs, that was another vocab word for this section. They play a key role in turning our scarce resources into goods and services. So entrepreneurs are willing to take risks in order to make a profit. They develop original ideas, right? So if you're looking at the slide that I have up, this entrepreneur's original idea is that people want a snack that is tasty and is healthy. And then they're going to start a business where they can make that original idea a reality, turn it into a good or a service, right? So this entrepreneur creates a business that's a snack bar that serves fruit and yogurt smoothies. If her business is really successful, other people are going to see it and be like, oh, that's successful, that's profitable, I want to be a part of that. So this entrepreneur then creates a new industry, right? These snack bars become widespread because her idea was successful. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the job of an entrepreneur to fuel economic growth. Now, in order for an entrepreneur to take their idea, make it a business, make a profit, so on and so forth, they need to assemble their factors of production. So those were land, labor, and capital. Now we're going to go through each of these individually here quick. Okay, so first we have land. Land is going to be all of the natural resources that we use to produce goods and services. So some examples of land would be like fertile land for farming, right? Very literally, you have land that you use for growing crops, right? Those sorts of things. But land can also include other natural resources like oil and coal and water and forests, right? You need forests for lumber. So land can be a variety of things, but all of them are natural resources, right? Unprocessed. Now, throughout history, there have been many wars over scarce natural resources or land, right? A more modern day example might be oil, for example. There's like constantly wars over oil. If you think of like the Middle East, one of their most ample natural resources is oil. And the United States often gets involved in their affairs because we have a vested interest in that natural resource, right? Wars have been fought over water, right? Water is a need. And so not having enough water, clean water to meet the needs of your population certainly puts you in a dire situation. So I just want you to think about what sort of economic or social consequences might occur in a country where there's not enough water to meet the needs of the people. The next factor of production is labor. This is the effort that people devote to tasks for which they are paid, right? So your job, that's your labor. Some examples of labor would be the medical care that's provided by a doctor, the classroom instruction that's provided by a teacher, creations of paintings by artists, so on and so forth. And then we have capital. So capital is your human-made resources that you use to produce other goods and services. Some examples of physical capital include buildings, tools, equipment, all of the equipment in your factory. That's human-made physical capital. Then you have human capital, which are more so the qualities that we have that like make us good at our job, right? So some examples of human capital would be like a college education or training or previous job experience. Think like the things that you would put in your resume. That is human capital. Now, capital is a key factor of production because people and companies use it to save time and to save money. The benefits include increased efficiency, right? You can make stuff faster, you can make stuff for less money, right? Drive down the costs. You have increased knowledge, better time management, just overall increased productivity, which is going to make your business even more profitable. So, why are goods and services scarce? We've talked about scarcity. I've thrown that word around probably way more times than you wanted to hear it. But the reason that goods and services are scarce is because the resources that we use to produce them are scarce, right? Especially natural resources. Think we could like knock down every forest on this globe for lumber. Eventually we're going to run out, right? We can't grow these huge trees as fast as we take them down. So those natural resources in particular are really scarce. Additionally, you can have situations where labor is limited, right? Where you don't have enough people in the workforce. You can have scenarios where physical capital is limited. So in this picture on your screen, you can see they're using hand tools to farm. They're going to be much less efficient than someone who's using a combine, right, or modern technology. But that modern technology is very expensive and is not available in many like third world countries. So they have to resort to hand tools. Resources also have many different alternatives. So you need water, for example, to make a number of different products, right? It's not like there's one product and we can use all of the water in the world to make that one product. Water is going to be used in a variety of different food items, drinks, right? Water is going to be used in producing electricity. So it's spread out amongst various industries, and it's really the job of individuals, in some cases the government, or business to decide how we're going to allocate those resources amongst different industries. So that sums up section 1.1. Please reach out if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll see you for section 1.2.